So, hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 126 now of Level Up, 60 minutes of live Q&A, where your questions really do drive the show. Ella and Adriana are over in the chat on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So please do introduce yourself. Do let them know, of course, not just your name, but also the city from where you are joining us today. We will post a link into the chat for you to be able to vote up the questions that you would most like answered, and of course for you to add your own as well. Now, if your question is selected, then you're going to appear in the credits at the end of the show. So well worthwhile doing that. Do get your questions in early and stay with us to see all of that happen. Today, we're going to be talking about collaboration, and in particular, how do you go about building a culture of collaboration across your team and across your organization, really, from creating a safe space so that people can make a contribution through to the selection of tools and techniques. How do you best tap into the talent that is surrounding you and get everybody's contribution surfaced in an inclusive and a valued way? Now, to make sense of all of this and really help us on that journey, we've got a really interesting panel of experts to put your questions to and ask them in real time to help us out. So let's jump in and meet them. Joining us today is Imtiaz Kaderbhoy. He returns to Level Up, and he is, of course, a certified agile business analyst. And today's lesson in agility is he's very kindly steps in on behalf of somebody who fell ill just overnight. So thank you very much, Imtiaz, for doing that. He holds an international diploma from the British Computer Society, and he's passionate, I think it's fair to say, about coaching and mentoring. He's an accomplished keynote speaker, and we're delighted to welcome him back. So great to see you again, Imtiaz. How are you doing?
Very well, and thank you for having me. Really looking forward to this afternoon's really interactive conversation. Some great questions, and can't wait to get into them.
All right. Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. So joining us from sunny Thailand, I think at least it's sunny. It might be the evening time now. It's probably dark actually over there where Ron is Ron Leeman. He's, of course, the founder of the Highway of Change and a pioneer in seeking collaborative engagement with his clients all around the world. Welcome back to Level Up, Ron. Lovely to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, like Imtiaz said, looking forward today. I was supposed to be on Monday's session, but unfortunately I had a bit of an accident, which prevented me from doing so. So I'm glad to be on this session. And it's not sunny Thailand, it's 9 o'clock at night.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully the sunshine will return tomorrow. You're absolutely right. Mart Rovers joined us back again, of course, a regular face and panelist on Level Up. He's a leadership coach and the president over at INTERPROM, where his passion for coaching and development really does show in the work that he does and the clients that he engages with. Lovely to welcome you back, Mart.
Nick, thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And great to be on this wonderful panel. I'd like to start with a quote to get the build collaboration going. Quote from Thomas Stahlkamp. I'm sure I mispronounced that. He's big in collaboration. He said, "The secret is to gang up on the problem rather than each other."
I love that. The gang up on the problem rather than each other. What a brilliant way to start the show. Thank you so much, Mart. I'm going to make a note of that one. Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Dierk Söllner returns. He focuses on strengthening peoples and teams, really improving their competency and performance with an empathetic approach. An author and a podcaster, of course, in his own right. His services remain in high demand by valued organizations and clients. Welcome back, Dierk. Lovely to see you.
Hi, Nick. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this event. I'm happy to be able to share my experience with collaboration and again, learn something from other experts all over the world. And as a freelancer, it's very important for me personally, to work with other people and to collaborate with other people. So I'm really looking forward to the questions and the exchange with the whole world. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. Now, we do have people from all over the world joining us. So it's lovely to see some of them online. And we also have, of course, our question master for today, who is Jenny Hepler, and she is joining us from Pittsburgh over in the United States. So how are you today, Jenny?
Very good. Thank you. Looking forward to a great show today.
All right, excellent. We've got some folks joining. We've got Canadians joining. Jyoti Chopra, I can see, or Chopra rather, who's watching us from Canada. And we have Gabriel, who is joining us from London. So thank you very much for introducing yourselves. And we also have Nunarai, who is joining us from South Africa. So really lovely to have you all online. We've got 3 continents there represented straight off the bat. So I know that we've got lots of questions to get through, Jenny. So why don't we jump in and we take our first question, if we may?
Absolutely. The first question is, how important is collaboration when you have a culture of distributed leadership in an organization?
All right, it's a really good question. Isn't it interesting? Ron, why don't you start us off on this?
I will, although it says anonymous, it was me that asked the question. So, distributed leadership is obviously about the empowerment of your employees right at the front end, like all the touch points, the customer touch points, etc. So the issue of collaboration between those people at the front end of the business is absolutely essential, because everybody has to know what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it, and the impact it has on the customer. So the collaboration effort for the distributed leadership culture has to be spot on.
All right, thank you very much indeed. I agree with you. I think it's quite interesting, this concept of distributed leadership, and helping colleagues to be able to think about where they are in the organisation, and that leadership is not always about the pure hierarchy of kind of starting at the top and cascading down. Mart, what are your thoughts on distributed leadership?
So yeah, the word distributed triggers the thought. It may sound like we're all over the place or we're not in the same spot. What comes to mind is the word transparency. In other words, to build that culture of collaboration, even in a distributed environment, a distributed leadership, transparency becomes an enormously important element, a prerequisite, to still be successful as a whole, as a team. So I would say that should be part of your culture, and I would focus on that.
Yeah, it's good advice there, isn't it, to kind of get us going. So thank you, Ron. Thank you for the question as well. It gets us all kind of thinking about, starting to build up those, that culture of collaboration, starting to think about situational leadership. So whereverabouts you are in the organization and the different circumstances that you are in, then your leadership style can adapt and fit in with those circumstances. We might come back to situational leadership in a little while. Very good. Thank you very much indeed for starting off the show. And Jenny, let's move on, please. We'll take our next question.
Sure. The next question is from Robert. What is the difference between collaboration and cooperation?
Okay. All right then. Dierk, why don't you start us off and then we'll hear from Ron.
Okay, so from my point of view, collaboration and cooperation are different part of things. There is a difference because I think collaboration means the guys or the people who work together, who collaborate, have one goal, have one mission, have one point to achieve together. And cooperation means they work together, but they have a win-win situation, which does not mean they have one goal or one mission. So they work together, they collaborate, but they may have different goals.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much indeed. Ron, what would you like to add?
Did you read my answer? It was exactly the was what I was going to say. Cooperation is obviously you're working together with a group of people to produce something, but what you're producing is for you as an individual, and you're asking people to cooperate with you on that to achieve that goal. In terms of collaboration, what you're doing is you're working with a group of people, but you're working with towards a shared goal. So everybody is mixing in to contribute, and you deliver something of a shared nature rather than an individual nature.
All right, that's quite good, isn't it? I think we're getting closer to the succinct answer there. Very good, thank you very much. Mart, your thoughts on collaboration versus cooperation?
It's probably not scientifically proven, my answer, but for me personally, collaboration sounds much stronger, as in we're in this together, than cooperate, as in, all right, yeah, I'll cooperate, but I'm not quite in agreement, but I'll just do what you tell me to. That's maybe my interpretation of these words, but collaboration, to me, I prefer that over cooperation.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think there's a certain cultural hierarchy that's implied, I would suggest, as a Western European person in cooperation. Cooperation to me sounds like somebody else has co-opted you, has brought you into their idea to ask for your help to deliver their idea. So I would agree with that. I think there's a certain degree of hierarchy there. Someone is almost in charge, if you like, or owns the concept, and then other people are co-opted in to a team, if you like, to deliver on it. On the collaboration side, I've seen circumstances and I've witnessed them where perhaps I began a cooperation journey. I've said, look, I've had this idea, team. And then the team start working with me and they begin collaborating, and we actually end up in a far better place than we would have done okay, if they'd simply cooperated. So they've saved me from my own incompetence. So I would say the biggest difference between collaboration and cooperation is the outcome. Generally, if collaboration works well, the outcome is far superior to where you have a cooperative outcome. But that's just my personal experience. So it may not be the same for everybody. Okay, very good. Thank you very much indeed, panel. We often get asked this kind of comparative type question. Ron, you wanted to come back in and share something.
I just wanted to say, in terms of cooperation, as you mentioned, it could start as cooperation, but a natural progression of cooperation is when you're working together, and you suddenly realize, well, actually, we want to achieve the same thing here. We want to achieve the same goals. We want to produce whatever. And it's just a natural progression from cooperation to collaboration. And it just happens. Yeah.
I completely agree with you. When the pianist is at the piano, the page turner is collaborating. All right. When they slide another piano to face the first and they play a duet, that's collaboration. So, Dierk, your thoughts on this?
Just one thought about that. I think collaboration leads to a team. Teams are collaborating, and I think if you have a group of people, sometimes they're called a team, but if they only cooperate, you may call them a group of people. So they don't have one vision, one mission, one goal.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think sometimes as well that the use of language evolves. There are many people who have huge following online, and the modern term for them, I think, is influencer. That they're able to by what they do and how they behave and the clothes that they wear and the brands that they associate themselves with, they're somehow able to influence others, right or wrong, actually, for good or for bad. And often influencers will talk about collaborating with brands. They're kind of co-creating, if you like, in order to be able to produce content that people like to look at. And then they will see fashions, or they'll see products, or they'll see cooking or recipes or gadgets or whatever it happens to be. placed into that content, and that is a collaboration. Whether it's an equal collaboration, I'm less sure, but certainly the sum of the parts, ends up being amplified somehow in a collaboration. It's a little bit bigger than it would have been separated. So very good, excellent. And we've got some really good ideas also in the chat. So if I can ask the TD just to bring up some of the social comments. I've seen Luis Caldera talking about putting his 2 cents in there. Collaboration implies shared accountability. Thank you so much for picking that out so quickly, TD. We really appreciate it. You can see it on screen there. Shared accountability, cooperation implied, shared responsibility. So that you really, Lewis, you should really just volunteer. Okay, come on the panel, because that's a fantastic answer, and I'm certainly going to write that one down. Yeah, I would recommend that one too. I can see all the panel actually making notes. Imtiaz is making more notes than anybody at the moment, actually, so he's definitely writing that down. Thank you very much indeed. And also, Mridal as well. Mridal, apologies if I'm making a hash of your name, Mridal Tandon there. Cooperation should precede collaboration. And I think it often does. I think it really often does. So, thank you for making that kind of comment, because you kind of start off with one end in mind, don't you? And particularly if you've thought about a problem and you think, oh, I think this is the answer to the problem. And it starts off as a cooperation. And then, as we mentioned a little earlier, other folks jump in, and suddenly it turns out to be a smarter, better, improved answer than you could possibly imagine on your own. So it's very true. Imtiaz, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I guess for me, collaboration lends itself more in the agile world as well. Really building teams, self-empowered teams, self-organized teams, and building real good culture of collaboration, teamwork, building trust, and actually being able to form cohesively as a unit. So I agree with what the guys have said around that journey from cooperation, that more collaborative, shared approach where you're working towards one goal, but you can actually, work together and take accountability and responsibility for the work you're doing.
I completely agree with that. And I think it's been a revelation in some organizations that some of the words that we used 15, 20 years ago around our employees are our most valued asset in a business. And, it's actually our frontline team that are delivering our services in healthcare or in government or in, finance or whatever the functional area happens to be. That now, through organizational agility, actually that empowerment is more meaningful. That people actually are, coming up, owning their own problems, fixing things that then get adopted, by other parts of the organization. So really high value commentary and some really great ideas. And thank you very much as well. I was just reading that comment from Bungani, talking about the antecedent for any growth. So it comes before growth. So it's the ignition, if you like, or the catalyst for growth. Certainly, all of those things. So thank you very much indeed for that growth in a business or indeed in a team, because that growth can be personal, can't it, as well? It doesn't necessarily lead to a financial outcome, but it does lead to an improvement in maturity and competency and capability and so on. So what a great question to get us going. Thank you so much, Robert. Wherever you are in the world, we really appreciate it. All right, let's move on. Jenny, if we can, we'll take our next question, please.
Our next question is from Wendy in Atlanta. In my opinion, collaboration requires building trust. How do we build trust?
Okay. So building trust is something which takes place over time, doesn't it? Dierk, you work with C-suite people, you work up and down organizations, and there must have been a moment where you've thought, I need to say this out loud. How do you go about building trust?
I think the first thing I want to mention is that it's not only a task for leaders, it's a task for everyone. Building trust, leaders have to build trust, but if you work together with your colleagues, you have to be authentic. So I think that's one point. It's a personal task. It's a task for everyone.
It's very important, isn't it? This, yeah, because and it never stops either. I think you build it and build it and build it, but you can't take it for granted, if that makes sense. I might come back to that in a moment. Imtiaz, what are your thoughts on building trust?
Yeah, I guess one of the things as a business analyst, building trust is massively important in the work we do. We're ultimately working with a lot of people, whether they're benefiting or not benefiting from a project. Building trust and having a good rapport is key to that early part of the work. So techniques like interviews, one-to-ones, maybe informal conversations by the coffee machine, using at least an early part of that time to get to know somebody, understand who they are, what they're about, dislike their job, and really building a personal, professional rapport with somebody before sort of moving on into the work task at hand, and really trying to build a relationship, building trust, giving you the license to kind of then continue some of the more harder conversations that we often have to sort of take part in.
I agree with that. I think it was quite interesting earlier in my career when from a kind of European or even US perspective, often we wanted to separate off relationship from business because we saw it as sometimes a conflict of interest if you had a very good relationship and you were doing business. Yeah. And yet when you were working in countries, notably in India and in Asian countries, my impression is that relationship must come first. You must build relationship first. And if you have a good relationship, then business may follow. But without the relationship, it's not going to happen. So it's quite an interesting kind of thing to be able to blend together and get that right. So I completely agree with you. I think trust is built on relationship, and that relationship needs to be established first before you are able to proceed. So thank you very much indeed, Imtiaz. Ron, let's hear from you next, please, and then we'll go to Mart.
Trust is probably the biggest deal in any business organization whatsoever. And if there is no trust, then you might as well forget it. Just to try and emphasize the point, taking my own situation in terms of training people, I have to make sure that those people that want to be trained by me trust in me to deliver to them what they want. And the way I do that is I don't just take anybody and everybody. I always have a no obligations online session with them, and I speak to them for half an hour. I go through what I do, what I'm going to do, etc. So I build that relationship of trust, and I hope that at the end of that session, they are able to trust me to deliver what they want. So trust, yes, absolutely, it is the biggest business enabler ever. Without trust, you might as well forget being in business.
Yeah, absolutely right. And establishing that, exactly as Imtiaz was saying, get that platform there, build that relationship, get that human contact kind of going first is the right way to go. Mart, your thoughts on this?
I'm going off of what the BRM Institute puts forward about relationships and how trust is a key ingredient of that. And how do you establish trust? There's one key component that we definitely have to address, and that is meeting needs and expectations. When you set expectations, you have to meet them. If you don't meet them, forget the trust. You cannot rely on each other. If you work in a team that collaborates where there's trust, you have each other's back. You know what to expect from each other. It's clear what to expect from each other. The goals are clear. You overachieve when there's a great relationship going on within that team, and there's a lot of trust going on. And whatever you do, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like it's just fun, in essence. So trust is absolutely key for Wendy's question to get the collaboration going. But like you said, Nick, relationships needs to be addressed first, and then trust. Once the relationship matures in the 5 maturity levels that the Institute puts forward, then trust becomes eventually the key component to get to the highest level of relationship maturity.
I think you're absolutely spot on there. Thank you so much, panel, because it's such an important part of what we do. There's also some really excellent contributions online today. So we've got a highly engaged audience. Jyoti, I want to include your commentary. I know that you were joining in as well on the previous, kind of questions. So Jyoti's saying there that, build trust, communicate openly, be transparent, showing empathy and understanding. Now, in Dierk's short bio that he shares, he talks about coaching empathetically or empathically. So, Dierk, why did you feel that was so important to your personal brand? Let's just talk about that for a moment, and then we'll come on to some of the other points.
I think that you can't buy trust, and you can't expect. You may expect something about trust, but you can't buy it. And so I think in the modern times, everything gets digitalized. We get artificial intelligence, and I think you can only rely, you can only trust people, you can only trust human beings, and that's what I think it's good. So if you want to achieve goals within a team, within a company, you have to trust your colleagues, and that's what I think the basis empathic, being empathic.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got lots of agreement there from the panel. And Jyoti, thank you for expanding a little bit as well and talking about, being that, a little bit more open and showing some of that vulnerability. Louise has jumped in and has been talking about, 3 things to consider: vulnerability, transparency, and to walk the talk. You do need to live it, don't you? There's so many cheesy people. We've sat, all of us, earlier in our careers, I'm sure, where we've listened to people and we've thought, you just read that. You read that from a magazine in the seat pocket in front of you on an aeroplane. Dierk, your thoughts on walking the talk?
I just want to invite Louis to this panel because I know him. We met several years ago, and so Louis, please be a panelist in the future.
Okay, all right, we will do. Well, talent management, can you reach out, please, to Louis and we'll see if we can't kind of organise that. We might need to book him in advance. Actually, he's in demand. Anyway, Imtiaz, finish us off on this particular question, and then Jenny, we're going to move on.
Just a small comment to finish. One of the big mantras when I started working too many years ago was all about keeping personal problems away from work and box it off, and you come to work and you work. But I think certainly in the last 3 years, that divide between professional life and personal life has disappeared almost, and it's joined, and the two go hand in hand. And having that empathy and compassion in all our working business relationships is so important for trust, relationship, business development, getting things done in a really collaborative, fun way. I think those skills around empathy, compassion that have been talked about are massively important in how we effectively go about our work in the current world.
That is quite interesting, isn't it? Because I agree with you there. I think that it still varies culture by culture around the world, all right, about how much you share, and family by family and person by person. But I agree with you. I think the trend is generally towards a more open and honest exchange of that, and that there is a greater willingness to recognize that we come to work and it's part of our life rather than all of our life. And in fact, actually, it's an enriching experience to have a more meaningful relationship with colleagues, over time, of course, and to build that up. And the sort of trite, water cooler conversations that happened in my early careers generally now don't happen. And people are much more willing when you say, "How was your weekend?" to say, actually, well, it was a bit mixed. And by the way, that's English for terrible. Okay. So a bit mixed is kind of English for, oh my goodness me, it was awful. So, but I think there is that willingness actually to engage and to empathize, as you say, and understand. Very good. Thank you very much, panel. These are amazing, actually. I think we're heading towards a master's program, actually, okay, where we're going to be doing, awarding CPD points and all of this kind of stuff kind of around us on Level Up. It's a really great and interesting, in-depth conversation today from everybody, all right? And Bongani's also kind of sharing some thoughts as well, which we'll come to in a few minutes. But right now, Jenny, I think let's move on if we can, and we'll take our next question, please.
Absolutely. The next question is from Ashley. Are there any online tools that an organization can use to help with collaboration among teams?
Online tools. Ooh, now there's lots to choose from, isn't there? So I think we're going to hear from several panelists about their thoughts and their ideas. Now, I have to say that these are in no particular order. All right. So if you've got a favorite as well in the chat, pop it in the chat, all right, so that we can all learn from each other. Why don't you start us off, though, Dierk, and then we'll hear from Mart.
I would like to say no. There are no online tools because collaboration is based on human beings. So you can't buy an online tool for human beings. So no online tool. Recommend it.
Okay. All right. Okay. The online tool that is being recommended by Dierk is, get together in the physical place. All right. Physically move yourself, move your body. All right. Buy a ticket, buy a train ticket, move your body, get to the same place. All right. Fair enough. Very good. Mart, your thoughts, then we'll hear from Imtiaz.
Sorry, Dierk, I'm going to disappoint you. So I'm going to recommend workflow management type tools, to make the collaboration effective, efficient. So I would look at, again, workflow management.
Okay, workflow management is quite interesting, isn't it? There's a lot of, I think the phrase is RPA, robotic process automation at the moment. If you're an Office 365 user, you might be starting to explore how can you build your own little workflows. If you use software as a service, you might be looking at exchanges that can pull information out of one environment and pass it to another one for you. There's lots of those as well, and they all rely on workflow and getting the information that you need from one place to another for you to be able to enrich and use and collaborate with others. So a great enabler. And Mart, thank you for that thought. Imtiaz, your thoughts, please?
Yeah, I guess for me, when I'm training and often coaching, tools like Miro are really handy. So in training, I'll use Miro boards at the start of days and at the end of days to get people to put feelings on the board. How they're feeling, are they happy, are they sad, have the learning met expectation? Also used during activities to kind of, if you've got breakout rooms, people can work together and build, or answer the questions that have been posed. That's really useful. And even tools like Miro I found really beneficial on project work, whereas maybe 5 years ago, I couldn't find good tooling to really share in an easy, open manner some of the artifacts we were producing. I found Miro really helpful in working with colleagues in Asia or Southern America just to share work and collaborate real time with them and develop work together.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think a lot of distributed teams, and I'm trying to kind of link together different thoughts here. That the ideal is to be in the same space. When you can't be in the same space, use great tools. And the default tool set sometimes in the video calling platforms is not always the best toolkit to use. Alongside Miro, I would also encourage folks to have a look at another one that begins with M, Mural, Mural. It's a very similar kind of platform product. And the other one, of course, is what we use on Level Up. We use Slido, which is principally focused around voting, but it also helps to do prioritization. So if you're using Miro or Mural for things like Moscow prioritization, helping groups figure out what is a must-have, what should they be considering, what could be in there, and what definitely won't be a priority, then all of these tools can actually help quite a lot. Other things that I've seen recently, Notion. I don't know if you're a mobile user, but Notion is, many of these actually are available as apps. And I do quite like that. One of the collaboration tools is people's phones. So do consider using the fact that nearly everybody now is welded to a device. And they take their device upstairs in their home and they take it downstairs in their home. So they're never more than arm's reach from their device. It's in with them in restaurants and all of this kind of thing. So if you can use a device to order your lunch when you're at a restaurant, you can probably use it in a meeting, to get your quiet voice heard. So just do consider that. All right. Okay. The next thing that I think that we should do, let's jump over to the chat, TD, if we can, if you don't mind. We're just going to pick up some ideas there on different collaboration tools. We've got some generic thoughts as well. So thank you very much from colleagues who are suggesting whiteboards. Absolutely right, Jyoti. We've got Miro and we've got Mural as examples there. And Ella has said that she's a massive Notion fan. There is this, isn't there? You kind of get used to an app, all right, and it becomes like your thing. And Ella, I absolutely celebrate that, okay, because there's something fantastic about being the master of an instrument. If you're a great pianist, you play with passion, and if you're a great user of Miro, as Imtiaz is, you just kind of know it. You know it so well, it becomes an extension of yourself. And Dierk has some incredible facilitation techniques face to face. All right, I know that. So whatever it is, practice, so that when you're in that moment of truth, you can do it brilliantly. All right. Everybody's got to start somewhere. Very good. Let's move on. Jenny, I can see live questions coming in. So they are stacking up in front of us. So let's take our next question, please.
Sure. So our next question is from Babu. What is the impact of ChatGPT in the digital world, PM world, leadership world, or cybersecurity world, or personal details issues?
Wow. Okay, that's quite a lot, actually. Wow. Okay, no, we only have, I just want to set some expectations, Babu. All right, we only have about 20 minutes to run. All right, so we're going to do our best with this. The impact, first of all, of machine learning, AI. Imtiaz, why don't you kind of start us off?
I actually had a conversation around this yesterday with all my mentors that I'm mentoring on the apprenticeship scheme. But it was all around how this can be used at college and university, and the ability to basically create an essay from asking a simple question, and you can get the answer. But also the impact on the student and universities and colleges, and we got into the realms of not only the functions of it and what it, arguably the benefit of the information available, but also the ethics around it. And that's one of those topics we generally don't discuss, is the ethics around this sort of technology, similar to automation, AI. It's a business ethics part of that question. I think is equally as important as the benefits or the disadvantages to using some of this technology. But it is concerning for a lot of lecturers, a lot of universities, the sort of advent of this type of technology at the moment.
Yeah, and I can see why entirely, because so much now of our coursework submissions are delivered electronically. They're delivered electronically, they're read electronically. And so, all of the time as an educator, what you're trying to do is to bring to life the content, whether you're teaching philosophy, economics, whether you're teaching sciences. When I was at university, I studied sciences, and the educators were the people who could bring the topic to life, who would really engage me and extend my thinking, extend my learning, so that I would give them back a little bit more than they gave me. That was the thing. And when that connection happened, that resonance, it was like the bow on the oboe, the bow on the cello, rather. There isn't a bow on an oboe, you blow it, but the bow on the cello, that's when the resonance happens, and the voice of the instrument is louder than than it was before. So I completely agree with it. Hugely challenging. Dierk, what are your thoughts about artificial intelligence and machine learning in this space?
I think this is a great challenge for mankind. We had some challenges before, but I think that's the next one. That's where we are obvious about that. And I'm returning to my point of view, just being authentic, looking on human beings. So I think it would be helpful, or we need to build human intelligence to get really good insight, to get trust in machines, because I think artificial intelligence will help good people for doing good things and will help bad people to do bad things. So building trust on machines, if you can do that, needs human intelligence, and that's what I see as a challenge for mankind.
Yeah, it really, really is, because we are getting to the stage where it's more tricky to really discern and to tell what is real and what is not real. There is I'm going to ask colleagues in social to be able to post a link online. It's to a site which is used for people that design computer games, and you design meta-humans, and it's by a company called the Unreal Engine, I think is the name of the organization. And in this site, you create a meta-human. Now, it's not based on photographs of people in any way. It's a purely digital model of a completely fictional, they don't exist, these people, but the astonishing detail and resolution and the mimicry of human behavior is on another level. So, Babu, to answer your question, what is the impact? I think so far it's a little like one of those Hollywood disaster movies. Okay, we now know that the huge rock is hurtling towards the earth. Okay, it's been tracked for some time. People have predicted it for some time, but we don't yet know what the full impact is going to be. Will it be something which augments and enhances and accelerates human learning and creates a better outcome? Will it be collaborative in that sense? Or does it represent a real and present danger and require a different level of governance and the ethical management of how we use these tools in order to ensure that no harm is done? All right, so very good. Let's move on then, please, if we don't mind. We're going to get on with our next question. Thank you.
Next question is from a live viewer, Labao. How can online connection help building trust? It feels much harder to keep connection with people abroad and different time zones too.
All right, it can be really tricky. Now, Ron, you do this a lot, don't you? You're pretty much purely online these days.
Yeah. The last few days, I've
how
had
do you go about
so many.
it?
The last few days, I've had so many problems trying to schedule people in terms of time zones. It's been unbelievable. It comes with practice, I think. Yeah. Obviously, if you're new to collaborating or working with people online in different time zones, you struggle a little bit about, oh, well, it's 12 o'clock midnight here, yet it's sort of 3 o'clock in the afternoon there. If you do it often enough, time zones seem to just not disappear as such, but they don't make a big difference, okay? And the connection with people is no different, because the time zone seems to take a secondary step, a secondary stage, because what you're actually dealing with a person in relation to something specific. So for me, if it's 12 o'clock midnight and 12 o'clock lunchtime to whoever I'm delivering something to, it makes no difference to them. It makes no difference to me. And building trust is exactly the same. And I wanted to mention something earlier on. Very simply, building trust is all about doing what you say you're going to do and delivering what you say you're going to deliver. And so long as you do that, I don't think it really matters what time zone you're in, although you can get quite tired sometimes. So if I fall asleep, wake me up.
We will do. Don't worry. I think you're going to be kept awake because of the quality of the questions. Imtiaz, your thoughts, and then we'll hear from Mart.
Yeah, I guess just a couple of things. Use time with people well. Don't just head into the subject matter, bringing up the Miro board, bringing up whatever document you want to share. Spend a bit of time getting to know the human being and build a real human connection with somebody. Or something in the room, maybe there's a picture, there's an artifact, and have a conversation. The other thing about working internationally, I've done more so in the last 3 years, is I've put myself in my colleagues' time zone. So I'm going to them in their working day, instead of expecting them to constantly work their lives around the UK 9 to 5. Again, just showing compassion, appreciation, and building that relationship.
I am delighted to hear that, Imtiaz. Thank you very much. It's so important that we do that. Mart, thoughts on this, please?
As far as building trust, whether it's online or in person, for me, it always comes down to adding value, being of value. In other words, if you connect, that connection needs to be of value. And again, it goes back to being, meeting needs and expectations. But to me, it says in how valuable is this connection or this collaboration. So my emphasis would be, again, on that word value, be of value.
Yeah, absolutely right. And thank you very much indeed, panel. Now, the point about putting yourself in your colleague's time zone is really important, all right? And if you're going to get the best out of people, we need to think about that, because for me, I can deal with complicated questions, and I'm at my most creative when I'm in my morning, all right? And if you join me very late at night after a long day, I'm less likely to be able to deal with complicated questions. So that's just a hint to any of my colleagues who are thinking of asking me anything complicated. Try and avoid 5:30, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, that kind of thing. All right. Okay, very good. Jenny, final question, please, because we're running out of time today. So let's take our last question for today.
The last question is from Wendy Moo, and he's their LinkedIn viewer. So what is the effect of culture in building collaboration culture?
All right. So this is quite interesting, isn't it? Because, you have to start from where you are. So I understand that. All right. Your baseline culture is going to influence and impact and shape how you create an improved collaboration culture. And so one does definitely beget the other. All right. If you are already on that journey, then you're going to be able to accelerate it. If you are really not on that journey at all, then it's going to be quite different. And also, you have this situation of different business cultures in different countries. And you have to think in the nuanced way, how are you making collaboration accessible? So Dierk, start us off on this. Let's think about those different business cultures, different geographies, different time zones.
Yes, thanks. I just had some minutes to read the question, because I think what is the effect of culture in building collaboration culture? I think, to my point of view, that means that collaboration is a part of company culture, it's a part of organizational culture. So I think if you want to build up a good collaboration culture, I think there are several other things you have to acknowledge. So building trust, helping people to get self-organized, and all the things like that. So I think collaboration is a part of culture, of organizational culture.
Okay, I totally agree with that. We're just scrambling slightly because we think we might just have time for just to squeeze one more question in, actually. So panel, with your patience, I'd really like to do that. Jenny, I can see it, but I'm not sure if it's got through yet to the panel. But if you are able to access it, then that would be really great. So let's take our very final last question. It will be the last question this time.
Final last.
The final question. Yeah, it's definitely going to be the final question, this one. Honestly, it really will be.
This one is from Gurpreet, a live LinkedIn viewer. How can we maximize collaboration among volunteers in NGO or charity organizations?
And this was such a lovely and pertinent question to ask. That's why I was, willing for us to work scurrily quickly, all right, to be able to put this in front of the panel. Now, NGOs, of course, charities are a fantastic model for collaborative organizations because they start with the end in mind. They start with people giving a little bit more of themselves than they are taking in whatever form. And even the people who are full-time employees, they're giving more than they are taking. And I think it was one of Winston Churchill's quotes that said that you may make a living from what you get, but you make a life from what you give. And charities and NGOs are most certainly the exemplars of that. Dierk, your thoughts on this?
I think it's a good question. I have to think about this. But regarding my first answer, collaboration needs one vision, one goal which everyone wants to achieve. I think charity organizations and NGOs do have this. So I think they can maximize their collaboration among the volunteers by putting out their value, their common goal for the volunteers.
I think you're right. And it's such an important thing when we're volunteering to, yes, we bring our skills, yes, we bring our experience, but we must also tune in to the circumstances that we are working in. And when you see excellence in action through charity work and NGO work around the world, it's where they've listened and responded rather than simply responded, if I can put it that way. So very good. And what a marvelous question for us to end our stack of questions today on. So thank you very much indeed to everybody who's been online with us. So what I'd like to do next is just invite our panel to share their final thoughts with us on today's episode. So Dierk, if I may, I'll come to you first and then we'll hear from Ron.
So thank you, Nick. Thank you, worldwide questionnaires, for having the chance to be here to exchange my experience, to learn from all the things. And it was marvelous to have all the social comments. And so thank you.
Absolutely. It's been an incredible, enriching experience from everybody around the world. Ron, your thoughts, and then Mart.
Yeah, this could have gone on for ages, couldn't it? And what a great collaboration between the panelists it was. Absolutely brilliant. And I enjoyed it again. I've been on one or two before, but this one seems to just have struck a bit more of a chord for some reason. And I'm not quite sure yet why, but I have to work it out. So I've got to go to sleep soon anyway. So.
Well, you'll figure it out in your dreams, Ron. I'm quite sure about that. Mart, your thoughts, please, will. And then Mart, your thoughts, and then Imtiaz.
I think this episode proved how collaboration. It was a show of collaboration, not only between the panelists but also from the viewers who chimed in fantastically. So that was great to see. I want to finish with another quote from this one is from Matthew Woodring Stover, and he said, "If you take out the team in teamwork, it's just work." Now, who wants that?
very good, very good. That's another. I've got a long list now. All right, and thank you, Mart, and thank you, audience, today, because we've got some really good ideas as well from the audience as well. Imtiaz, your final thoughts on today, please.
Yeah, just I think thank you to everyone that tuned in. The questions and the chat was really, really good today, really lively. I can only assume that topics like collaboration, emerging technologies, business ethics are really emotive, topics that people love to sort of debate on. So maybe some topics for the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you very much indeed. Now, Jenny, you have been masterful today in steering us through and navigating our way through the many questions. I know we had 3 times as many questions as we had capacity to be able to answer. But your reflections on today, please, Jenny.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the audience for all of the live questions. Also to the panel for your great answers to all of the questions we had. It's truly showing how we can collaborate, especially in such a global environment.
Absolutely right. And thank you very much indeed for, as I say, navigating our way through all of that. It was a really great set of questions that you chose to show up on the show. So look, on behalf of the audience and our producers online, thank you very much indeed, panel. And equally so on behalf of the panel, thank you, everybody, for joining in today. Great job. And do watch for your name in the credits if your question was selected. Over on our website, of course, you may search for answers to all of the previous questions that Level Up episodes have produced. It's a comprehensive free resource, and it connects you with more than 170 experts from around the world. Don't forget that you can listen to the audio versions of the shows on your preferred podcasting platform and relive the collaboration that we were doing today as you go out for a walk or enjoy some fresh air in the coming days and weeks. Take a moment, please, to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really does help new people to discover our content on YouTube and also on LinkedIn. So we appreciate it when you do that. We really do. Looking forward, on Monday of next week, the 30th of January, we're going to be looking at how to become a change manager, and that's at 8 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. It's a skill which is highly in demand right now, and it acts as a springboard, I think, over into February already beginning, which is Friday's episode. And there we're going to be looking at the world of cybersecurity, and in particular, the NIST framework. Fantastic business opportunity and career opportunities in cyber. So do join us for both of those episodes. Subscribe to the show, and we'll send you a personal summary, of course, of what's coming up and how you too can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. So thanks very much, everybody. We'll see you next time.